Hello everyone, I'm Angelo. I've been homeless in Northern Virginia for just over 7 weeks now. And I want to talk about what I've noticed about people's reactions to other people being poor or homeless. When I was in college, one of my first classes was taught by a very left-wing professor. He might have been the only very left-wing professor I had in college. I actually had mostly sort of right-leaning or right-wing conservative teachers. And one of the things he said that bothered me so much, because back then I was fully prepared to be inundated with leftist propaganda when I was in college, because I was a right-wing conservative high school student and I read lots of right-wing books. He said that in this country we demonize poor people. And he literally did a motion like this. He's like, let's just get those poor people, get them, get them. And I was so angry because I thought, we don't demonize the poor, we romanticize them. And we demonize the rich when we should all be striving to be rich. But the thoughts that he put in my head, or that I had in my head of that class, evolved over the years. And I kept thinking back to, how can I prove him wrong? How can I prove these points wrong? And what I've realized is, yes, we do demonize the rich. The sun's going behind some clouds, I guess, now, so I don't have to do the Hollywood thing. Although these are prescription sunglasses. By the way, goggles for you. Super cheap glasses and prescription sunglasses. So, since I've gone homeless, which was October 31st, well, I'll back up. Before then, I'd been living beyond my means. I was paying $760 a month in rent. I had been working as a bouncer and part-time, about 24 hours a week, getting good pay relative for the job. I mean, for the hours, but not like good pay overall. I make like maybe $16,000 a year. I did videography for a while, although I did less and less of that over the years as I realized I didn't really want to do it. What I want to do is my own filmmaking, my own storytelling. And what I realized since then is, man, people got a chip on their shoulder about someone just letting them know that they don't make much money, that they're in debt. So living beyond my means meant I was paying on my credit card for my bills. And my bank app calculator, like, it has a thing that says on average how much more you pay than you make a month. And I was spending, like, it looks like on average $300 more than I made every month. That's only possible with my credit card. That's how I ended up in over $15,000 of credit card debt. And I'll end up paying much more than that because of the interest on the credit card. And what I've noticed, and I knew this for a while, because since college, over the years, I've gradually drifted further and further away from conservatism. And, excuse me, getting a little cold. My nose is getting a little runny. And so I know for a while, like, I've known that people just hate on the poor. They look at them as lazy, as selfish, as scammers, as liars, as deserving what they get. And that's what I honestly believed. I was so self-centered and chauvinistic. I believed that we lived fundamentally in a meritocracy. Discrimination had been done away with. Systemic racism and misogyny had been done away with. Homophobia had largely been done away with. And the world's just fair. And if you don't make it, well, that's because you didn't want to. You didn't want it bad enough. But after enough years of, first of all, being around rich people at various jobs, at a movie theater I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, seeing how the rich treated the managers there. I washed cars, so I didn't have to deal with them too much, although they could be nasty with me too. But the chip on their shoulder, the casual dropping of my vacation home is being looked after now, but I gotta go there. Can you hold just watch my stuff here while I sit and just wait? Anyways, we literally had a guy, I remember, tell one of my coworkers at a Porsche and Audi dealership, he's like, I have a Porsche and you're gonna rent me an Audi? Ridiculous. How can someone live with themselves after that? I'd be looking over my shoulder feeling horrible all day. And I've gotten mad at people. I've done stuff like that before. Not often, but I've treated people like that before. And I realize after I feel so empty. It's not worth it to do that to someone. even if they get your order wrong, even if they mess up something, even if they're on their phone at their job, it's not worth it to treat someone like that. And it should make you feel terrible. And what I've realized with these videos on a visceral level, so I knew this about, and it's about our policies. It's about why do we spend billions of dollars enriching a few people who work at corporations and higher up in the military and in the government to make war. I realized it looks like a pole sticking out the back of my head. There, that's better. But we don't have money for people right here. 50 million people on food stamps in America. So if this country's so fair and it's so meritocratic, and it's not, and we don't have systemic white supremacy and corporate governance in this country, how come we have 50 million people who can't afford food once they paid their other bills? Are we just that unlucky as a country? We just landed on 50 million people who are just too lazy? Or is it that we have perpetuated racism, misogyny, discrimination for centuries, occupied this land, committed genocide, put people into ghettos, and then blame them for their own problems? What I've noticed on my own videos, it's so funny, I can't believe how much I notice it, is I put up free videos. I've been putting them up for 10 years, just going on 10 years, actually in a few days, because January 1st, 2009 was the first video I posted, and it's now a few days before New Year's 2019. Is when I talk about what it's like to be broke, what it's like to make little money, what it's like to live in my car now, a lot of people, I'm surprised, but I shouldn't be, because I've known about this for a while. People are like this, is like the zombies who come crawling out of the woods, like, I hear a poor person. A poor person's coming. Oh, a poor person. I don't want to have to see them. And then they go into attack mode thinking, I don't want to have to see or hear about a poor person. I don't want you to suggest that our country isn't fair, because we've been taught the myth that if you work hard, fundamentally the country's fair to you. And oh, by the way, it's just coincident. It just coincides with the white supremacist view that white men typically occupy CEO positions. White men have been the vast majority of presidents, of politicians in our country, that they have to be rich, they have to be straight, they have to be usually some kind of Protestant, evangelical Christian. Oh, it just coincides with that white supremacist view that those are the people who are most successful. It's not that we're racist. It just our beliefs just are coincidentally in agreement with those of white supremacists. It has nothing to do with the fact that we brutalized non-whites in this country for centuries. We've enslaved Africans. We've committed genocide against Native Americans. We commit atrocities against LGBTQ people, deny them their rights. For a long time in this country, women couldn't own homes. They could, either they'd have to get jobs, like they'd be criminalized, like black women would be criminalized if they didn't get jobs, or they wouldn't be allowed to get jobs, wouldn't be allowed to serve on juries. Basically, everything conservatives say they hate about Arab countries and Sharia law is what they wish they could do here. They just use it as an excuse to smear all Arabs as bad when they say, well, see, there's the real oppression of gays. Ted Cruz is like, with his melty ice cream face, that's where they really oppress gays. You should talk about that. And then once he's done talking about Arabs that are persecuted by other Arabs who are, and the persecuted are gay or LGBTQ. Oh, crap! All right, gonna do this handheld. My tripod launched my phone. Once he's done talking about them, he's like, okay, done caring about LGBTQ people, done caring about gay rights. Oh, that's a load off, thank goodness. What I've noticed with the videos is people watch free videos and they'll be like, huh, there's a poor person there. He's talking about being poor. I don't like the sound of that. It's not very white of him. Should have thought about being whiter and accepting white rules. Now, why are certain people poor? Why? I'll back up a second. Those people who don't like the videos talking about being poor, you didn't, I'm pretty sure in every case, you didn't build infrastructure to transmit these videos to your computer or your phone. You didn't build any of the energy infrastructure. You did nothing. All you did was sit down and watch and say, I don't like the sound of that. It makes me uncomfortable. Let me leave a few paragraphs saying why I don't like that. And by all means, comment away. That's why I leave comments open. I do delete racist propaganda and slurs, though, as long as I can help it. If I don't notice it or if I don't see it, if eventually I start getting too many comments and I can't read them all, but I try and filter those out. But if you're going to criticize me, it just amazes me the entitlement that apparently, like, you're accusing me of, but that you have to say, I'm going to watch videos. No, that's not good enough. I want this stranger to make me feel better about my own beliefs. So if you're not well because of my videos, go be unwell somewhere. Or if you're going to demand, like, question, why don't I get a full-time job, even though it won't pay enough for housing around here? Well, why don't you just make more money? Why do I need to make more money? Just for you? Because it's going to still pay off my bills very, very slowly. I'm not going to like the work, more than likely. I'm sure I won't. I'm not going to make enough to pay off my credit cards, like, significantly faster than I can now. I'm probably going to have to end up paying more for transportation, because I'm going to have to go back and forth between wherever I work, the gym to shower, wherever I have to sleep. Probably going to have to pay more for lunch, for food. And people are questioning, well, you're so entitled. Why don't you just work more? Hey, if you're watching free videos, by all means, like, hey, I'm good. If you criticize me, it just outs you for who you are. Like, it's, this video is going to be like a litmus test for some people. If you don't like me just being poor, why don't you demand that companies pay people better? That more opportunities be given to marginalized people to create businesses? That there be more spaces for Native Americans, for blacks, for immigrants, for LGBTQ people, for all types of marginalized people, for disabled people, to have spaces where they can create businesses. They can get a good education without going deep into debt. They can afford to live, and they can afford to provide opportunities to others. Because I guarantee you all that talk about a meritocracy and being disruptive, in corporations and businesses, those people would be disruptive because they would serve people that are ignored right now. They know the niches that are out there. And I know a lot of white people worry that somehow, like, that black people and brown people are going to want to do the same things to whites that whites have done to others. I don't see that from them. What I see is people who've been marginalized, who see a need and want to give opportunities to others and create opportunities for themselves, and not to be judged because they don't have an Anglo-sounding name, or because they have a foreign accent, or they speak a language other than English, or they have dark skin, or hair that's not, traditional, just business high and tight haircut, or because, they're disabled. They have special needs. Why aren't you questioning, why don't we have affordable housing? I'm one person. If I get a job, that'll be one person with a job. Why aren't you all questioning, why don't we get affordable housing so the potentially 1 to 3 million homeless people we have in America, we don't know because we're terrible at counting that. Why don't you question, why don't we have affordable housing for them? And for the people who are just, a few dollars away from being evicted at any given moment. Or for the people who are going bankrupt because of medical bills. Why don't you question, why don't we have more affordable and accessible health care? Why don't you question why we don't have more affordable food, affordable education? Why don't you question, why don't we have better paying jobs where you're not subjected to a corporate governance that basically it's like you're indentured to the job. You can't speak up because you'll be looked at as a troublemaker. if you're being abused at work. You can't bring complaints forward about, your customers or your boss treating you bad. You can't really bring up the fact that you're not paid well while the executives in your company might be making millions every week. Why aren't you talking about all that? If you want people to be living well, why don't? And if you believe in responsibility, that's the key word. If you don't, then don't. But if you believe in responsibility, why aren't you using your voice to speak up about that? You could if you wanted to. I think the only reason would be you don't want to. And how do I know all this? I used to be like you. I was like you. I was a chauvinistic, angry conservative. I would literally tell homeless people, hey, you can apply for a job here. Now, how shameful is that of me that I would do that? And I would never try and subject anyone to that kind of ignorance again, if I can help it. But I literally I literally believed that stuff. I read books on it, claiming that we live in a fundamental meritocracy, that discrimination's been done away with. I was eager to hear those myths reinforced, and to just ignore the literal experiences and accounts of discrimination and atrocities and poverty by black people, brown people, immigrants. So I know what it's like to be you. I know what it's like to be angry that someone out there is poor and they say the system is not equitable. Because we see politicians meeting in boardrooms, and we see CEOs gathering and press conferences given, and people with very good diction speaking on TV, and we see a very organized process whereby mostly rich, white, powerful men are able to gather together, organize, and carry out rules that exploit and carry out atrocities against poor non-white men, poor non-white people in general. But the difference is, when they create rules, it looks very elegant and civilized, and they're dressed well, and they speak in quiet tones, and they take turns speaking. When we see someone talking, where's the recourse for somebody working class or disabled or poor to get their voice heard? Well, the news won't generally cover them if they're just quietly protesting, if they're petitioning, if they're writing. When they cover them is when they're on the street yelling, when they're demanding rights, when they're protesting in front of the White House or the Supreme Court, or their local Capitol building, the local Chamber of Commerce, mayor's office, wherever. That's when they see them too. And then families at home, a lot of rich white families could say, oh my goodness, look at those people. They're out of control. They're angry. They're uncivilized. They're so entitled. Because they look around at what they have, like a nice area like this, a rich little area, and say, that's not how the world is. The world isn't unfair to you. It doesn't owe you anything. Jeez, that's uncivilized. And then that guides how they vote. That informs their beliefs, and their beliefs inform their actions. That's how they vote to keep homeless people criminalized, their existence criminalized, because they can't sleep in encampments, because they can't sleep in their cars on the street, because you can't panhandle, you can't give out food or blankets to homeless people, because that'll be considered handing out camping supplies, and that's illegal in some places. And that is true. It is illegal in some places. And it's just a way of making homeless people's lives criminal. And who do we make homeless? A lot of times it's people with disabilities, medical problems, with drug problems, people it's easy to ignore, non-whites who are sick, who have mental problems. They're easy to overlook, and you can look at them and say, geez, why are you like that? Instead of saying, we have an ability to stop this. Why are we like that? We have the ability to provide affordable housing, to provide the means for people to be disruptive. If you want to talk about a meritocracy, it wouldn't look like all just white guys running corporations. You'd see lots of Latinos and lots of black people, lots of LGBTQ. You'd see a spectrum of people. Because they're just as intelligent as anyone else. There's nothing they're not capable of doing that anyone else can. But if you had to grow up in the circumstances that someone, who grew up where police brutalize people, where education's underfunded, but the police are overfunded, they got helicopters, they got jails, they got nice cars, they got 401k plans, health insurance, but meanwhile the schools are overly populated, like there's too many students, not enough teachers, not enough school supplies. Police and politicians, they look at the news and see, well, the problem is we just need more police to go around arresting people. We need the broken windows policing of stop and frisk, just stopping people on the street if they look like a criminal. And already in people's minds, they've associated certain skin tones and hairstyles and clothing styles with criminals. So to them, they already, and you can see tests by where people look at pictures and they say, like, who do you detect more hostility from, a black face or a white face? You can see this in studies that have been done. And all I'm saying is, turn in your hate card. Leave it at the door. Slide it under the table. I'll take care of it and dispose of it. Why not? You'll all live another day. You'll be fine. Why not demand more equitable policies for medical care, for food, for housing, for jobs, for clothing, for education, for policing, for incarcerating? You can if you want. For war. Why do we have hundreds of billions of dollars to go kill poor people in other countries? How is that meritocratic? How is that fair to anyone? Would you appreciate that if you were going through that suffering, that hell here that we put other people through who won't get another day to live? Over 85,000 children in Yemen have starved to death thanks to our ally Saudi Arabia and America and England, because we support their efforts there. If you all don't like a YouTuber talking about this, how much more do you think you dislike living through it? And all I'm saying is, let's amplify those voices. Oh, no, oh, that's unpleasant. I don't want to have to be subjected to that. Don't give me an Audi when I have a Porsche. That's that settler mindset of, this is my land, it's owed to me. So turn in your hate card. Stop hating poor people. You'll be fine, and you can help them be fine too. By the way, you'll be a lot better off. You'll be a better person, a more whole person, a happier person. I am so glad I went homeless. For one, I don't like being tied down to a home, but two, I feel like I need to see this. I need to know what it's like on some level. I'm not living in dire poverty. I sleep in a car. I'm very comfortable in my car. I have a lot of moments of despair, but I also feel with that comes, strength and opportunity. And believe, they're one and the same. It's not like I don't feel despair right now. I do. So turn in your hate card. Help another person out. Don't invest energy in knocking other people down, especially poor people. You might be like me. I thought I knew it all. I thought I had all the answers. I thought I knew why poor people deserve to be where they are. Now I can see they're no different from anyone else on a human level. What's different is how we give rights to people, how we treat them, where we put our money, and the images we put on TV. I'm a filmmaker. I've always been informed by TV and film since I was a kid, and I was informed by those images that CNN and NBC would put out contrasting rich white politicians and poor people of color. And they don't have to say the words. They don't have to say anything commenting on race. The comment is right there in the juxtaposition of how they portray different people. So, help boost some of those voices. Don't take it from me. I'm a white guy, basically white. I'm a little dark, but don't take it from me. Don't believe me. Take a moment now, better yourself. Go read a story about what it's like to be in poverty. Go read a story about what it's like to be black, to be gay, to be discriminated against, to be disabled, to be an immigrant. Just read. I'm not even saying agree with the conclusions that I'm saying you should make. Just read it. Just find out. What's the harm? No harm done. You'll be a little more informed and you can go on in your day. And then go find another one. Watch another video from someone else. Don't take it from me. So, turn in your hate card. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Angelo. Subscribe for more videos.